तौर्यत्रिकम नृत्य गीत वाद्यम नाट्यमिदम त्रयम नाट्यम भावानुकीर्तन। नाट्यशास्त्र व्याख्यान माला के पंचम पुष्प में आप सभी का हम केंद्रीय संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालय भोपाल परिसर के निदेशक आचार्य प्रकाश पांडेय जी की ओर से, नाट्यशास्त्र अनुसंधान केंद्र की ओर से तथा समस्त भोपाल परिसर परिवार की ओर से हार्दिक स्वागत करते हैं। पंचम पुष्प में हम सुनेंगे राष्ट्रीय नाट्य विद्यालय नई दिल्ली के पूर्व छात्र एवं प्रोफेसर के.एस. राजेंद्रन जी को एक नए विषय के साथ नाट्य शास्त्रीय रंगमंच निर्मिति एवं प्रयोग पर। नाट्यकर्मी रंगकर्मी प्रोफेसर राजेंद्रन जी ने चेन्नई बेस्ड रेपेटरी पुथुपी पट्टरई के साथ बड़े पैमाने पर कार्य किया है। 2007 में उन्होंने नई दिल्ली थिएटर वर्कशॉप की स्थापना की। इनका निर्देशन कार्य शेक्सपियर, प्रेक्ट, आइनस्को और जेनेट के अनुकूलन से लेकर समकालीन नाटककारों और लेखकों के अलावा कालिदास, भवभूति और शूद्रक द्वारा संस्कृत क्लासिक्स तक है। इन्होंने भारत और विदेशों में रंगमंच पर कार्यशालाएं और व्याख्यान आयोजित किए हैं। प्राचीन भारतीय नाटक पर यूनेस्को ITI कार्यशाला पाठ्यक्रम निर्देशक भी आप रहे हैं। आपने संस्कृत भाषा के विक्रमोर्वशीयम, अभिज्ञान शाकुंतलम, मृच्छकटिकम, उत्तर रामचरितम आदि नाटकों का सफल प्रयोग किया है, जिसमें नाट्यशास्त्र अनुसंधान केंद्र की ओर से भारत रंग महोत्सव में उत्तर रामचरितम का सफल मंचन शामिल है। तो आइए मिलते हैं 15 जून 2020 को प्रातः 11 बजे नाट्यशास्त्र अनुसंधान के फेसबुक पेज पर प्रोफेसर के.एस. राजेंद्रन जी के साथ।
श्रीशैलेश दयावाच्यम दिव्यादिगुणार्णवं मृगेन्द्र प्रणवं वंदे रम्यजामादरं मुनिं लक्ष्मीनाथ समारंभां नादयामनवद्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्य पर्यन्तां वंदे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Friends, I am grateful to Central Sanskrit University to invite me to this webinar. First of all, I must confess that I am not a Natyashastra scholar. I am a student of Natyashastra, more interested in integrating the principles of Natyashastra in Sanskrit play production. So in a way, I am constantly exploring new meanings and new interpretations of Shastra to suit to our time, to suit to our contemporary situation, how the principles of Natyashastra can be integrated into our, that is the main area in which I will be able to talk to today. Though we begin with the spaces, the kind of theatre architecture that has been prescribed in Natyashastra, there is only a very passing reference to that. We have three types of theatres: rectangular, square and triangle. Now, these principles are not simply to be followed like museum piece. These are to be imaginatively interpreted in our actual performance, so that the audience or audience ways of looking at a performance, the ways of seeing performance keeps constantly changing. With the advent of technology, with the advent of sound and light technology, the whole idea of watching a live performance has gone into tremendous changes. We should take that into consideration when we are talking about theatre architecture as prescribed by Natyashastra. So, any standard book on Sanskrit drama will be able to clearly tell us this, and we don't need to spend much time on that. This is basically an idea to imaginatively use the space. What is important in Sanskrit theatre is charging the performance space. That is more important. Like I would like to use both triangular, rectangular and square imaginatively in the same production for different scenes. So there is no hard and fast rule about it. In fact, Shastra very clearly says that Samayanusar, Kalanusar, according to the times, according to the places where you live, you can create new interpretations of these ideas. But there is a lot larger significance to the use of space in Sanskrit theatre. Dr. Kapila Vasyan has extensively written about circles, triangles, squares in Indian mythology. You know, it has a larger sacred, religious, spiritual connections to those forms, geometrical forms of square, triangle, and rectangle. You know, even in the Sardha ceremony, the three Brahmanas who are invited for the Sardha feast, they are seated in three different geometrical positions. On the floor, they draw the square, the triangle, and the rectangle, and place three of them. So these geometrical propositions have a greater mythological significance, greater sacred significance. Since we are more into secular ways of interpreting it, we may perhaps lose certain importance in that. So I would say that most of my productions were in a place called Bahumukh in National School of Drama, which is like a Vikrishta Madhyama. The place is a rectangular space. It is divided into two parts. Half of the portion goes for the performer. The other half is for the audience. That kind of intimate space is necessary for subtle expressions of Sanskrit theatre gets across to the audience. Most of my productions, except Uttar Ramacharitam, which I staged in Bhavaputti Auditorium in Bhopal, and Vikramorvashiyam in Sanskrit, which we staged in Samukh. Samukh is again a kind of intimate Vikrishta Madhyama theatre. So we don't need to really be interested in creating an exact replica of what is said in Shastra. Shastra allows us to find new ways of doing it. As I said, with the advent of sound and light technology, the audience ways of seeing a live performance undergone tremendous change. We can't ignore that and stick back to the museum piece kind of a thing. In fact, this thing has been very beautifully explored by Govardhan Panchal and H.V. Sharma, who have written extensively on the theatre architecture as prescribed in the Natya Shastra. Now, I am more interested in integrating the principles of Natya Shastra in Sanskrit classical play productions. That is my area. First of all, we must understand, Natya Shastra is more practiced than read. If you ask a folk performer about Bharata Muni or Natya Shastra, he will not know. But in his art, in his theatrical performance, we see the essence of Sanskrit theatre, essential principles of Sanskrit theatre being integrated into his performance. How did he get it? He get it through parampara. One set of performers passing on to the next set of performers. It is passed through the bodies of the performers. Like I used to say once upon a time, for Kaisiki Vritti, Apsaras were created by Brahma, Apsaras, Ganigas, Devadasis, and the stars now. There is a principle that goes on. It's far from over. So, it is their bodies which preserve the principles of Natya Shastra. So, whenever we talk about Sanskrit theatre tradition, unfortunately, it is not an unbroken tradition. The present form of Kodiyattam, which is the only surviving Sanskrit theatre tradition, does not go beyond 800 years. But whereas Sanskrit theatre tradition is more than 2000 years old. So, when we approach this great tradition, we must keep in mind, we must always keep in mind the time. The attitude, the underlying principle is contemporary critical consciousness. Samakalin Alochanaatmak Chetna. That is what is the guiding principle when you work on a text like Natya Shastra. It is a great text. it lends itself to different kinds of interpretations, multivarious kinds of theatrical presentations are possible if you go deep into these principles. Thanks to scholars like Dr. V. Raghavan, Kamlesh Tripathi, Radha Vallabh Tripathi, many such scholars, Mukund Lat, they have come up with brilliant interpretations of the text. These are all important for us to understand how to enter into this reconstruction business of Sanskrit theatre. Now, how does one go about it? We have the text, Natyashastra text, which is the Ur text, the source text. This text cannot be approached as we read theories of performance in other schools of acting, the Western schools of acting. This is a text, a very dense text, has to be understood only with a guru who will demonstrate what it is. It's only by that way we will be able to enter into the text. In fact, the text is waiting for the reader to come and read and come up with a new interpretation. If we understand this principle, then we will not be following one particular way of interpreting it. There are multiple meanings inherited, multiple meanings embedded in the text. So, when the actor or the director or the performer enters into this realm of the text, it opens up his creative faculties. So, among the sources that we have, the first and foremost is Natyashastra text. Now, this text cannot be understood without the commentaries, the Tika Parampara, like Abhinavagupta and lots of other people who have interpreted the text in various centuries. Till 17th century, this Tika Parampara was active. The commentary tradition was active. So, Ur text, that is the Mool Natyashastra text. The next, the commentaries. Third, the plays themselves, survived in different forms, Pandulipi, palm script thing, right from Ashwaghosh to Bhavabhuti. Ashwaghosh, we are not getting it in full form. Maybe Bhasa's 13 plays, and up to Bhavabhuti, there is an unbroken tradition of playwriting and play performance. Such a long history of a comprehensive way of looking at the performance is very rare in anywhere in the world. So, the Natyashastra text, the commentaries, and third, the plays themselves. Fourth is the surviving traditional theatre forms, surviving musical forms, surviving traditional theatre forms, which even now is flourishing in different regions of our country, in rural areas of our country. As I said, they may not know that they are in the long Natyashastra tradition, but they are, when you see the text, it is very clear that they are the people who are preserving Lokadharmi tradition in Natyashastra. The fifth is the sculptures, the paintings like in Ajanta, Ellora, or the Khajuraho pictures or the Orissa sculptures. They're all there. In fact, in Chidambaram temple, we have the 108 Karanas, very beautifully documented by Dr. Padma Subramaniam. The text and the sculpture tallies. 108 Karanas rendered in sculpture. Now, Dr. Padma Subramaniam was done extensively on Natyashastra, work on Natyashastra. She has completed the sculpture into a live movement form. So we derive from all these five sources in order to create a contemporary Sanskrit play production, within integrating the principles of Natyashastra. Now, when we say this, when did we realize this? In the post-independent India, there was a need to find Indian identity. When people, not only in theatre, in painting, in music, in sculpture, in all other art forms, in our lifestyle, we started realizing that what is ours, what is our tradition. This has led to theatre people to look into Sanskrit plays, to look into Natyashastra. Unfortunately, many of us are not well versed in Sanskrit, so we have to depend upon translations. we have to depend upon other ways of understanding the text. Fortunately, thanks to these scholars like Radha Vallabh Tripathi, we have extensively written in the what this Shastra, essence of this Shastra is, and simple translations of the text for the students to understand it. So, a knowledge of all the 5 sources that I mentioned, along with a critical consciousness, is essential for any theatre person who is attempting to do a play, a Sanskrit play, following the principles of Natyashastra. Now, when we say following the principles of Natyashastra, it doesn't mean that we blindly just follow the tradition. We integrate those principles in our day-to-day performance culture. Thanks to the Shastra, it is not only a performance, it is not only a performance manual, it is also a performance theory. For example, chapter 8 to 13, which I consider a must for any theatre person, any actor performer who is interested in taking part in Sanskrit plays. It is a must for all the practitioners to undergo chapter 8 to 13, which is a performance manual. What does it say? It talks from the head to toe how various articulations, manipulations of your angas, parts of the body, can effectively help you in communicating, in expressing even subtle feelings. These are all again out of years and years of practice passed on to us. We don't stop at that. When we learn this from chapter 8 to 13, which talks about anga, angahara, karanas, charis, these are all basic units of performance making. Now, whenever I do a Sanskrit play, I make it compulsory for the actors to undergo training in chapter 8 to 13. Fortunately, in Abhinaya Darpana and other dance manuals, we have a very easy, very simplified, not losing the intensity, very simplified versions available for actors to get trained. First of all, the actor's body has to undergo this change of walking style, speech, movement, gestures. All these have to undergo a tremendous change along with the text that one is taking up for production. Now, how does one achieve it? If you constantly, we always say sthiti and gati. There is a sthiti, a posture that you start from, and gati, where it grows and completes the movement. Now, the chari is a minimum unit by the movement of your feet and the body and completing one unit. There are several units coming into the picture. There are several units combined together, which we call angaharas or malas, grand combination of several charis. So it's a step-by-step performance making. So if you understand this grammar of performance making, as explained in the Shastra, it is easy for us to approach the text. It's easy for us to render the text in performance. So without this training, without this basic training in the body, it is difficult for the actor to get into the text. I always insist on one thing: how to get the text in your body. Possessing the text in your body, possessing the text bodily, or embodying the text. This happens not immediately. It happens by constant practice. It happens by letting you completely absorb the text in your body without any pre-plan. Anything that is predetermined or pre-planned goes waste. it flowers. The performance flowers. The actor has an actor who is trained in basic ways of expression, walking style, gati, and different gestures, hand gestures, together and individually. The entire body, postures, all this gets into the body of the actor, which we call semiotic body. Semiotics is the science, how through sanket, through the gestures. Now, a well-trained actor in this skill, he has a semiotic body. Now, in actual performance, the phenomenal body plays a major role. By phenomenal body, I mean the bodily being in this world, the emotional experiences, the wide range of life experiences. These are all very important. So, semiotic body and the phenomenal body combine together to create a performance. Now, this performance or this way of discovering a language performance is not predetermined. It is not pre-planned. It is not pre-worked out by the director and executed it. That would be dead. It happens on the floor when the director and the actor and the musicians, the choreographers, they all together create this performance. They all should know, they do not know what will happen. They are waiting for something to flower. This happened to me in several productions of Sanskrit plays. I do not go with a pre-plan. I go with a plan that I know the text, I know what kind of effect it should come in the performance, but how it would come, how naturally it will flower, is to be left to the floor. If you plan that also, then you are stopping. We are discovering something, we are inventing something. That is when the performance belongs to not only to the director, but the choreographer, the musician, the actors themselves. When I did Uttarama Charitam in Central Sanskrit University, Bhopal, I was fortunate to get a very good music director, a young man called Dr. Sanjay Dwivedi. It's because of him the whole production attained a dimension, different dimension. The music, he was so involved in it, totally devoted to it. So when the music started coming in, then I had to accordingly change the movements of the actors, the choreography, the composition of the scene. So it is a similar wavelength in your choreographer, in your music director, in your costume designer, in your light designer, the director. They all work on the same wavelength. Then only a new thing flowers. I am very keen. I do not stop rehearsals of the scene unless and until something new happens on the floor. Shastra gives a lot of emphasis on that. Shastra gives, with all your this thing, you should find new things. Simply following the gestures and practices and practically executing them will be a kind of museum piece. We are not interested in museum piece. We are interested in Sanskrit plays go and touch the contemporary audiences. Otherwise, it will look like a museum piece. They go to see Shakuntalam or Uttarama Charitam or any Sanskrit play. Sorry, I'm not keeping well. So my mouth goes dry very often. So, when we work on the floor, we make sure that the actors are perfectly trained in gestures, walking styles, in postures. A continuous training to them is a must. There is no shortcut for that. Many people think that they will do some culture, help and do some postures and all. Do not. Posture comes from within, not from outside. It comes from within. So for that, you need to explore constantly, every day, your bodily gestures. Like we say, a daily gesture, an extra daily gesture. When you say, Krishna, ni begane baro, Krishna, come quickly. You don't say, Krishna, come. If you don't come, I won't be alive. That is the meaning. So immediately when you say, Krishna, you come, the whole being, entire being of your body and mind goes to it. If you can't come, probably I will not survive. These are the meanings that are created through the bodily posture, gesture, and the eyes, netrabhinaya. All this makes Krishna is, if you don't come, I won't survive. If you don't come, there is no relief for me. All these are not said in words, because words will kill. All these are said the way the actor's body posture, the way the entire being diverted towards that person Krishna. So the intensity with which body holds that emotion, the intensity with which that invitation, Krishna, you come, quickly you come, I can't survive without you. All these meanings are generated in the audience's mind. How is it done? It is done through the performance. Where does the performance lie? The performance does not lie in the text, not in the director, not in the choreographer. It lies in the body of the actor. That is what the audience see. Shastra pays special attention to body. It is body centric. Everything is there in the body, within the body. The way intensity with which the actor absorbs it. In Shastra it says Triloka Avastha Anukarana. Triloka Avastha Anukarana. Now when this Anukarana is not simply copying or imitating, it is more than that. It's Anukirti, Anubhuti, several levels of performance techniques. Now, when in intense fight situation, the actor's body gets charged, the actor's space gets charged, that is how he will be able to transform it. What is it after all? The purpose, as Shastra says, Rasodpatti. If you can't create Rasa Utpatti, probably no Siddhi. The 11 principles in Sangraha Sutra says, how does one create Bhav? Abhinaya, Vritti, Pravritti, Dharmi. A combination of this is Bhav. Bhav means acting actually. This Bhav leads us to the Rasa, resulting in Siddhi. Now, Dharmi, Vritti, Abhinaya, these are crucial areas. For every actor, director, he has to choose a Dharmi, Natya Dharmi, or Loka Dharmi. Vritti, Kaisiki Vritti, Arabhatti Vritti, Bharati Vritti. We have to choose that appropriate thing. Then Pravritti, different regions, where are you coming from? And then we have Dharmi, Loka Dharmi or Natya Dharmi. And then the 4 different kinds of Abhinaya. And then the Sangeet, music, Gana, Swara, Atodhya. These together make the Bhav, performance, acting. That leads to Rasa. If you have a clear understanding of it, you will know what amount of labor, what amount of effort that an actor has to put in combining all these things and making it as an integral part of your expression. So the actor gets it into his body and it comes out in beautiful expressions, and that is where the flowering happens. It is not imitation, it's not copying, it is actually a very original, brilliant way of portraying a situation as the actor has understood, as the semiotic body and the phenomenal body of the actor flowers. So this is a very basic principle. Thanks to some of our leading theatre directors like Habib Tanveer, B.V. Karant, Kavalam Narayana Panikar, Prasanna and several others have created a theatrical idiom. Like if you see Mitti Ki Gaadi, Habib Tanveer's production, it was an eye-opener in the early 50s. The Sanskrit plays can be played like that, Chhattisgarhi actors, Lokadharmi. So it was a beautiful way of inventing a tradition and bringing it alive to the modern audiences. Same way Karanji, Same way, after their entire lives to create new forms of new idioms of Sanskrit play productions. Both in Kavalam and Karan, music plays an integral part. Without beat, you can't. When the play goes on from the beginning to the end, Panikkar sitting in the wings, a beat comes all the time, all the time. So he choreographs situations in such a way. It flowers. It is his grammar. Karan's grammar is different. Habib Saab's grammar is different. Prasanna's grammar is different. Prasanna's Uttar Ramacharitam, one of the greatest productions in the postmodern Sanskrit productions, is an eye-opener, where Mohan Uprathi's music is the backbone of the production. So there are ways of discovering the text. There are ways of relating the text. Now, I will come back to each and every play that in the major tradition from Mahakavi Bhasa to Bhavabhuti. Let us take an example of a small unit in a play and discuss that so that these points get across to the listeners. So in the post-independent India, several directors like Habib Tanvir, Karant and others, they thought that what is our tradition? What is Kalidasa? What is Natyasastra? So they went into it. Thanks to the scholars I already mentioned, scholars like Dr. Viragavan, scholars like Kamalendra Tripathi, Radhavallabh Tripathi, Mukund Lat, several of them have come up with a modern critical study of Shastra. Not simply the classical scholarship. The classical scholarship has its limits. A modern critical study of Shastra and the play text is important in terms of taking the text to the modern audiences. If this understanding is lacking, then the play's emphasis will shift. It will not be able to really get across to this to the thing. Now let me briefly speak about the plays that I have done. As I said, mostly my plays were done in Bakumukh, which is like a Drishya Madhyama stage. Let's start from the earliest, Mahakavi Bas, Pratima Nataka. I did Pratima Nataka and then Duta Ghatotkacha. These two plays I did. Duta Ghatotkacha is a political play. It's out and out political play. Voice to the voiceless. Now in Pratima Nataka, when we were producing the play, the Rama in Pratima Natakam is an entirely different Rama. What today's Ramasenas and all these Rama Bhakts are celebrating Rama, it is not that Rama. It is not a Rama that who propagates hatred. It is a Rama who is ready to sacrifice everything and go to the forest with his wife and brother. Look at that Rama. Where is that Rama? We have put that Rama into the ballot box. And in the name of Rama, we attack people. We spread hatred. When I saw this play, when I went deep into the play, the Valkal dress that Rama, Sita and Lakshmana wear before going to the forest. Vanachalita Rama Raghurai, a beautiful song that we introduced. Before going to the Vana, they wear the Valkal. In fact, the play opens with Sita catching hold of a girl maid in the palace, running away with the Valkal. She wants to try out. How does it look on me? Without knowing that in another hour or so, they have to go to the forest with this. Rama comes and finds that, why are you wearing Valkal? Valkal is the bark dress that normally people going to the Vana wear that. Now for me, when I was doing this play, Valkal is Khadi. Mahatma Gandhi's Khadi. Because Rama says, when Lakshmana wanted to wear the Valkal dress, Rama says, do you know why this you are wearing? Do you know what are the principles that you should follow if you get into this dress? It is not just a dress, it is reflection of the values that you follow. Lakshmana understands it. Rama explains to him. That is when I thought Khadi is Valkal and the Padukas of Rama which Bharata carries back to Ayodhya are the Bapu's Paduka. So I see Mahatma Gandhi, Bapu, in the production. Now, why is it possible? It is not a superficial rendering of the story. You do go deep into every aspect of the play, then the play automatically connects you to the contemporary situation. We had about 6-7 shows. It went off very well with the audiences. If you read the text, you can't realize the potential of the play. You should actually visualize in terms of performance. And with a set of actors, you try that out. Similarly, in Dutta Ghatotkacha, Ghatotkacha represents the voiceless, they represent the oppressed. That is the new meaning. We did that in NSD Bengaluru. The new meaning came out. That was the time when a Dalit student committed suicide. A contemporary situation, figuring out in an ancient play written in 2nd century BC or so, that is why they are classics. What are classics? Classics have meaning for every century, every generation. That is why they are classic. They survived so many centuries, still there in our bookshelf, because of their potential, the performance potential of it. Now let's move on to Kalidasa. I took up Kalidasa's 3 plays in the same order in which he wrote. He wrote first Madhyagnimitram, Vikramarusham, and then Shakuntalam. I took that in the same way. I first did Madhyagnimitram in the early 2000. Now, Kalidasa need not write a play for a king to fall in love with a maid and crazy about her and all that. It is more than that. Now, if you look into the plot structure of Madhyagnimitram, or if you carefully look into the text, you will find there is something else happening in the text. Where does the king see Malavika? First, he sees in a painting. Oh, what a beautiful girl she is. Who is it? You know, in olden days, the Raj Mahal has commissioned painters who will paint the scenery and display them. Because painting is part of Sanskrit play. Whether it is Shakuntalam, whether it is Madhyagnimitram, whether it is Vikramarusham, you see that painting becomes an integral part of it. In Shakuntalam, Dushyanta himself starts painting. So painting is an integral part, like the Prakriti is an integral part of play structure. So the king sees first Malavika in a painting. The second is in a ritual called Ashoka Dogat. The girl, beautifully dressed, young girl, applying alta to her feet and goes and kicks the tree. The tree is supposed to bloom, and it blooms. So the king first sees her in a painting. Second, he sees her in a ritual. Third, he sees her in a performance. There's a very beautiful way of describing the beauty of Malavika in Madhyagnimitram. She comes and participates in a dance competition between 2 dance teachers, Natyacharyas. So there you see the beauty magnified. The king is so attracted. Oh, what I saw when I saw her in the painting, I thought the painter has not done his work right. When I see her actually in a ritual, you know, our body functions differently in a performance, in a ritual, in real life. You should understand why Kalidasa has created a scene in a ritual where the girl goes and kicks the tree and the tree blooms. It's very interesting. When I was directing this play, Bhaskar Chandavarkar, who did the music, he brought me a contemporary advertisement where a woman goes and hugs the tree to protect the tree. So this three vriksha connection in our painting, sculpture, in our literature, you find immensely getting across. Now, the second meeting of the king with Malvika takes place in a ritual. The third one goes much further beyond. That is dance performance. Remember, all these three situations, Malavika is not Malavika. Malavika in a painting, Malavika in a ritual, Malavika in a performance. Only at the end of the play, the king meets Malavika, the real Malavika. Now, for me, the entire emphasis is how does the king grasp the beauty, Saundarya? It is not a king falling in love with a maid. People simplify it like that. It is grasping, it is how does one comprehend this beauty, beauty in abundance. The body in ritual, the body in performance, the body in painting are three different things. An extension of the beauty of Malvika. Again, it is not just one person, it is the feminine beauty. And how this feminine beauty is a governing principle in a king. When we talk about Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, this principle gets more interestingly portrayed. Now, when I designed the play, I didn't give importance to the storyline. I gave importance to how the king comprehends this beauty. Abundance, beauty in abundance. So, Maligal turned out to be a totally different play. Not telling the story of king falling in the maid, beautiful maid. It's totally different experience. It's the king absorbing, it's the king trying to comprehend the beauty, the aesthetic qualities of this girl in a performance, in a ritual, and in painting. Let's move on to the next play, Vikramarushiyam. I've done this play both in Hindi as well as in Sanskrit. And we are fortunate to tour with the play all over India, where everywhere it was most welcome, even though it was in Sanskrit. There were doubts who will watch the Sanskrit play done in Sanskrit. Invariably, everywhere, the auditorium was full and the audience response was immense. Now, in Vikramarushiyam, again, certain basic questions on acting are raised. When Urvashi, again, there is a play within the play. Urvashi is summoned to rehearse a play called Lakshmi Swayamvaram. Bharathamuni is directing, written by Saraswati. Lakshmi Swayamvaram. Lakshmi goes to, Urvashi plays the role of Lakshmi with a garland. She has to garland Purushottama. Now, this scene is a passing reference in the text. But we thought that we should play this. We should create this scene. So, we created Bharathamuni, we created the king, Indra, we created the traditional music from Kudiyattam, the Edakka, because I tried all possible modern instruments, but only Edakka goes with it. So Urvashi comes, she's already fell in love with Pururava, but since Indra or Vardhamani summons her to the Indra Sabha, she has to go for rehearsals. Now in the rehearsals, Vardhamani is explaining the scene and Urvashi is rehearsing it, acting it out. Vardhamani as the director is not happy with that. There is a lack of Tanmayi Bhava. Try it again. So she tries first. She has to say Purushottame. She tries that first, second time. Vardhamani is not convinced. The director is not convinced. He asks it again, do it again, do it again. Now, when she does that very convincingly, very beautifully, she says Pururava instead of Purushottama, because she is really in love with Pururava. The acting principles come into question in this scene. I really enjoyed this scene for the simple reason that it raises the basic questions about acting itself, especially stylized acting. So this scene, a new scene was added, and it was well received by the audiences, even though the text gives only a passing reference. Now the third play, Shakuntala, is an extraordinarily beautiful play. Professor A.K. Ramanujan talks about the structure of the play, Shakuntala. The first act is exactly like the last act, seventh act. Second act is like the sixth act. Third act is like the fifth act. Fourth act is a decenter. So there is a cyclical, there is a spiral plot progress, not the linear progress as in Western drama, as in other things. So you should know why first act is exactly like the seventh act, both in ashrama, one in Kanva's ashrama, the other is in Kashyap's ashrama. Even characters, even situations, even the descriptions were similar. Second act, Shakuntala is missing. Sixth act, Shakuntala is missing. Third act, Shakuntala is there. Fifth act, Shakuntala is there, though diagonally opposite situations. Fourth act is at the center of this, where she leaves, departs from Kanva's ashram. In fact, in our Sringeri Sanskrit University production in Sanskrit, we gave a lot of emphasis for the fourth act. Normally people edit it out. We wanted to play everything. Shakuntala is going to the palace. She is from a rural ashrama. How does she is going to be the wife of a king. So how should she be looking? Where are the clothes? Where are the jewelry? Anusaya and Priyamvada are worried about it. They've never seen how palace women look. They belong to the ashrama, rural girls. So what do? The Shishyas of Kanva bring them vastras, bring them jewelry. But the Anusaya and Priyamvada does not know where to fit it. Something that one has to fit it here, they put it in the neck. Shakuntala is feeling uncomfortable. There's a question of what is beauty in that scene. When they have doubts about where to put which jewelry, they go to a painting in the ashrama and see, oh, in Rajmahal women wear like this. Oh, go and say, Shakuntala undergoes a torturous process before going to leaving the thing. And there is this Agni, a ritualistic offering before she departs the thing. A very beautiful, moving scene. Shakuntala has immense potentials in terms of interpreting it. I must recall Prasanna's production of Abhignana Shakuntalam in a totally contemporary style. Such attempts are more welcome because such attempts are there possible. Natyashastra allows such kind of freedom. The entire emphasis that I want to lie down is Sanskrit plays allow you maximum liberty provided it is creatively correct. You can't do experiment for the sake of experiment. Another thing I wanted to tell you, in the Sanskrit plays, there are less Sanskrit, more Prakrit and other dialects. The Indologists and the Orientalists have put the stamp Sanskrit plays, so we follow that. They are actually not Sanskrit plays. They are plays, ancient Indian traditional plays, includes several kinds of dialects. Like for example, how the fisherman, Machwara in Shakuntalam, he will not speak Sanskrit. Shakuntala herself, she can't because she speaks Prakrit. And the songs are beautifully rendered in Prakrit. So, when we do a translation, we should keep in mind the various dialects that are still surviving in Indian languages. We should make maximum use of it in translation. So every time when we do a Sanskrit play, we commission a new translation so that it is flexible, more flexible, renders itself for performance. Now let's move on to a very often performed play called Mrichakatika, which Avirsab did as Mittigigadi. In Mrichakatikam, I did that play with the students of National School of Drama. I will not go into the entire detail of it. I enjoyed the whole process. Our students are equally interested in venturing it out. When we were studying this scene in which Vasanta Sena's elephant goes berserk and attacks people on the street, and then one fellow comes with a rod and controls it, and that fellow is given an Angavastra, a shawl, that is Charadatta's. So the Mahavat, the elephant keeper, comes and reports to Vasanta Sena that this happened. We were wondering why this scene, it doesn't fit well in the plot. Vasanta Sena, elephant goes berserk. Vasanta Sena, elephant goes and attacks people on the street. My students told me, sir, it is not Vasanta Sena's elephant, it is Vasanta Sena's desire goes berserk. Very beautiful interpretation. So the whole structure of the play is changed. Vasanta Sena comes with her beautiful jewelry, and when the Mahavat comes and says this, that the elephant went off and attacked the people, we devised a dance piece in which the jewelries break and goes and hits the audience. So it's the desire of Vasanta Sena. And Visharika Naika, in the rainy night, it's a very beautiful scene, like in King Lear. In the rainy night, stormy night, she goes to meet Charudat. Come what may. Oh, Sapatni si Raat. The darkness, the rain, the thunder, nobody can stop me. I have to go and meet him. This is an excellent example of Abhisharika Naika. Again, I must tell you, anybody who is interested in Sanskrit dramaturgy or Sanskrit play production or the principles of acting in Sanskrit style has to undergo Ashtanayika exercise. Ashtanayikas are a basic theatrical exercises. In National School of Drama, when I was teaching, I make it compulsory for all the students to do each Nayika in their own times. Abhisharika, Vasagasajja, Khandita, Kalavankita, all of them. It's an acting exercise. It is not classification. Where unfortunately, when it says Dasarupa, that doesn't mean only 10 rupas. It's like the science saying there are only 3 states of matter, solid, liquid and gas. No, it is not prescriptive, it is descriptive. Bharatamuni looked at various styles of plays that were happening, and then he summed it up as 10 Dasarupas. Now there is also the contemporary commentary tradition has also done some damage. For example, when Dasarupa was written, Dhananjay's Dasarupa, it's like a recipe to how to write a play. Every detail, like computer education today, every small detail is explained why and how and why. What happened was, everybody started writing plays. If you give a recipe, everybody started lifting the pen and started writing the play. The Sanskrit dramatic literature degenerated. After Dasarupa, not many great works are visible for us. So, we were talking about Mrichakatikam. Let's move on to Harsha. Recently I did Harsha's Priyadarshika. Priyadarshika again is a play within the play. It's Garbhanataka. I like this idea of play within the play because in Western tradition, play within the play came in 16th century, whereas the proper definition, paribhasha, was laid down in 2nd century. it is named as Garbhanatakam. So Garbhanatakam is a very interesting device used by several playwrights. So in Harsha's Priyadarshika also, this is used. Though Priyadarshika is not in that scale, in that level, but I tried this with my students to play Priyadarshika. It turned out to be a very interesting experience. For example, I can't forget one scene. The king is busy in his court, but there is a song coming from backside that it is time for him to go and spend time in the Udyana and the lake, take bath. It's a very beautiful song. Anjanam, Manjanam, Manjanam. The Manjanam song was sung. We created a curtain. People come and take up, the women come and take their clothes off and put it on the curtain. And they throw their hands up. That scene turned out to be visually, beautifully communicating to the king that it's time for him to go to Udyana, take bath in the pleasure garden. Because Rajavilasam, the king's timetable is very strict. So there are several things, if you pay attention to the song, several things open up several ideas. In Pratima Natakam, for example, the Sanskrit words have this tremendous appealing power. Now, when it is translated into other languages, we should equally find powerful words. Like, for example, Lakshmana is very upset that Rama is not given the kingdom, the role of the king, being the eldest son. He should be given the role of the king. No, but Dasharatha says no. Bharata will be the king and she has to go to the forest. So he's very upset, angry, coming and meeting Rama. He says that 100 Lakshmanas angry coming in. Rama asks, what do you want me to do? You want to kill my father? You want to kill my mother? You want to kill my brother? And then I become a king? All the modern day politicians must read this Ram. This Ram is the Ram who can save this country, not the Rams of Ramasenas. Lakshmana says very precisely, Chatur Dasa Vane. You have to spend 14 years in the forest. Look at the structure of the word, Chatur Dasa Vane. These words immediately give me ideas how to transform this Chatur Dasa Vane, Dvani, into visual. We beautifully composed the scene of the Vana. There are 10-15 actors coming in quickly, within a fraction of a second, light throws them and goes off. It's a very powerful, appealing line. Why I'm saying Sanskrit words, Sanskrit Dvani, gives a lot of ideas to the director how to create that Dvani into visuals. How will you show it as Drishya Kavya? Dvani, Drishya. So this combination of Dvani, Drishya is a marvelous exercise. And I will conclude with Uttarnamacharitam, which I did with Sanskrit University, Bhopal. Very moving play. Again, there the play within the play, where Rama goes, Vaideki was about to drown into the Ganga. He goes and stops. Lakshmana says, brother, it's a play, relax. It's a very moving, the reality and the illusion. So, when I finished the play, went up to my room, an elderly gentleman came and hugged me. For 10 minutes he was crying. He didn't speak and went away. I thought Rama has come. I wrote in my Delhi brochure that Rama came and met me in the green room. There are such moving devices in Sanskrit play productions which are more important for us today. I think I will stop here, and I don't know whether there is a question and answer session. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you very much.
धन्यवाद आदरणीय प्रोफेसर के एस राजेंद्रन सर, आपने अपना अमूल्य समय प्रदान कर हमें कृतार्थ किया। हम केंद्रीय संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालय भोपाल परिसर के निदेशक महोदय आचार्य प्रकाश पांडे जी की ओर से तथा नाट्यशास्त्र अनुसंधान केंद्र भोपाल परिसर तथा समस्त भोपाल परिसर की ओर से हम आपका हार्दिक आभार व्यक्त करते हैं।